Emma Charlotte never expected her graduation day to end with a mysterious billionaire placing a white rose on her table. What starts as a chance encounter between a lonely marine biologist and tech mogul, Sebastian Hayes, becomes an emotionally devastating journey through love, betrayal, and the ultimate sacrifice for truth. Asterisk, greetings. Fellow dreamers, this tale is filled with love, secrets, and a twist you'll never forget. Step into the tale. Asterisk, the salt air carried the weight of Emma's loneliness as she sat at the corner table of Ocean's Edge. Her marine biology degree trembling in her hands like a fragile promise. The diploma should have felt like victory, but instead it felt hollow, a beautiful lie wrapped in expensive parchment. Through the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, the Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly, indifferent to her achievement. Her family had vanished back east within hours of the ceremony, their congratulations still echoing emptily in her ears. Her classmates had scattered like startled fish, leaving her stranded in San Diego with nothing but dreams of ocean research and the crushing silence of celebration meant for one. "Ready to order, miss?" The waiter's voice cut through her spiral of self-pity. Emma glanced at the empty chair across from her, its vacancy a mirror of her heart. Grilled salmon and white wine. It's graduation day. Congratulations. The wine's on the house. She watched couples lean into candlelight. Families raised toasts to futures bright with possibility. Everyone belonged somewhere. Everyone except her. The shadow fell across her table like fate itself, and when she looked up, the world shifted on its axis. Green eyes, the color of deep ocean currents, stared back at her. Belonging to a man who moved through the restaurant as if he owned not just the building but the very air inside it. His navy suit was perfectly tailored, his dark hair kissed by salt wind. And in his hand was a single white rose that seemed to glow against the dim lighting. "Nobody should spend their graduation day without flowers," he said, his voice whiskey smooth and dangerous. He placed the rose beside her diploma with the reverence of a prayer. Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Do we know each other?" His smile was a weapon wrapped in silk. "Not yet. I'm Sebastian Hayes." The name hit her like a rogue wave. Sebastian Hayes, tech mogul, billionaire, the man whose face graced magazine covers and whose company was reshaping sustainable energy across the globe. And he was sitting down at her table as if she were the most fascinating person in the room. "This has to be some kind of joke," she whispered. Sebastian's laugh was dark honey, coating her nerves in warmth she didn't trust. "No joke. Just a man who recognizes brilliance when he sees it." He lifted her diploma, studying it with intense focus. "Marine biology from UC San Diego. The ocean needs warriors like you, Emma." Heat flooded her cheeks. "How do you know my name?" "I make it my business to know remarkable people." The restaurant buzzed with whispered recognition. Phones discreetly angled their way, but Sebastian's attention never wavered from her face. Emma felt exposed, as if he could see straight through to the scared girl beneath her academic achievements. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely audible above the clinking of silverware. "Why tonight?" Sebastian leaned forward, and she caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more complex. "Because tonight, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And so am I." His words wrapped around her like a promise and a threat. Emma's rational mind screamed warnings, but her lonely heart was already reaching toward the warmth he offered. Even as she sensed the dangerous currents underneath his polished surface. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. Sebastian's smile turned predatory, beautiful, and terrifying in equal measure. "Everything." 3 weeks later, Emma's world had transformed into something unrecognizable. Sebastian's penthouse, overlooking the San Diego harbor, had become her second home. Its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view that made her feel like she was floating above the city. But it was the man himself who had become her obsession, his presence intoxicating and addictive in ways that terrified her. "You're thinking too hard again," Sebastian murmured from behind her, his breath warm against her neck as she stood at the window. His arms encircled her waist, and she leaned back against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I got the call today," she said softly. Dr. Rodriguez wants me for the kelp restoration project. His arms tightened around her. That's incredible news. When do you start? Next month in Monterey? She turned in his arms, studying his face. Sebastian, how did you know she would choose me? You said you'd put in a good word. But this feels like more than that. Something flickered in his green eyes, there and gone so quickly she almost missed it. I may have mentioned your research to a few colleagues. Your work speaks for itself, Emma. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. But in the 3 weeks since their first meeting, she'd learned that Sebastian Hayes was a man of secrets. Layers upon layers of complexity that she was only beginning to unravel. Tell me about your family, she said, pressing her palms against his chest. It was a question she'd asked before, always met with deflection. This time, his jaw tightened. There's nothing to tell. Everyone has family, Sebastian. Parents, siblings, someone? His hands dropped from her waist, and he moved to the bar, pouring himself a scotch with mechanical precision. Not everyone deserves a family, Emma. The pain in his voice cut through her like a blade. She'd seen glimpses of this Sebastian before, the man behind the polished facade who carried wounds that never quite healed. It was this vulnerability that had drawn her in deeper than his wealth or power ever could. What happened to you? She whispered. He downed the scotch in one swallow, his knuckles white against the crystal glass. Some stories are better left buried. Emma moved toward him. But he stepped back, creating distance that felt like an ocean between them. You can't keep shutting me out. Not if we're going to make this work. Make what work? His laugh was bitter, hollow. Emma, you don't even know who I really am. Then tell me. The glass shattered against the wall, amber liquid sliding down the pristine white paint like tears. Sebastian's chest heaved, his carefully constructed control cracking to reveal something raw and dangerous underneath. You want to know who I am? His voice was barely controlled fury. I'm the son of a man who sold everything for power, including his own child. I'm the CEO of a company built on lies. I'm a man who destroys everything he touches. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs, but she didn't back down. That's not true, isn't it? He moved toward her with predatory grace, his eyes blazing. Tell me, Emma, what do you think happened to the last woman who got too close? To Alina Rodriguez? The name hit her like ice water. Alina Rodriguez, the marine biologist whose research had inspired Emma's career. The woman who had disappeared 3 years ago during a diving expedition, her body never found. Alina was working on a project for my company when she died, Sebastian continued, his voice deadly quiet. She discovered something she shouldn't have. Something that could have destroyed everything I've built. Emma's world tilted sideways. You're lying, am I? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through files with practiced ease. Hayes Technologies was funding her research into deep-sea mining impacts. Alina found evidence that our operations were causing irreversible damage to marine ecosystems. She was going to expose everything. The phone clattered to the floor between them. Photos of environmental destruction scattered across the screen. Emma stared at the images, her scientific mind processing the devastating reality, while her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. You killed her, she breathed. Sebastian's face was carved from stone. I didn't pull any triggers, Emma, but I didn't stop it either. The man she'd fallen in love with dissolved before her eyes, replaced by a stranger whose green eyes held depths of guilt and darkness she couldn't fathom. Emma backed toward the door, her legs trembling beneath her. The kelp project, she whispered, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. You didn't recommend me? You placed me there. His silence was answer enough. You're using me to cover up what you did to Alina, to finish what she started. But under your control this time. Sebastian's mask finally slipped completely, revealing a man drowning in his own sins. Emma, please, let me explain. But she was already running, tears blinding her as she fled from the penthouse. From the man who had stolen her heart, only to reveal it was built on a foundation of lies and blood. Behind her, Sebastian's anguished voice echoed through the empty space. I never meant for you to find out this way. The Monterey research station felt like a prison of glass and steel, perched on the edge of the world. Emma stood in the marine lab at 3 a.m., surrounded by the hum of filtration systems and the gentle bubble of research tanks. But the familiar sounds brought no comfort. 2 months had passed since she'd fled Sebastian's penthouse. 2 months of throwing herself into Elena Rodriguez's unfinished work while her heart slowly turned to stone. Her fingers traced the edge of Elena's research journal, the leather cover worn smooth by countless hours of handling. Every page was a testament to the woman's brilliance and dedication, but also to the growing fear that had consumed her final months. They're monitoring everything now. Read one entry. I can't trust anyone at Hayes Technologies. The data I've collected could destroy them, but it's also the only way to save what's left of the ecosystem. If something happens to me, I pray someone will finish what I started. Emma's throat tightened. Elena had known she was in danger, had known that her research posed a threat to powerful people, yet she'd continued, driven by the same passion. For marine conservation, that now burned in Emma's chest like acid. The lab door hissed open behind her, and Emma spun around, her heart lurching as Sebastian stepped inside. He looked different than she remembered, older somehow, his perfect composure replaced by something rawer and more desperate. Dark circles shadowed his green eyes, and his usually immaculate suit was wrinkled, as if he'd been traveling for days. You shouldn't be here, Emma said, her voice steady despite the earthquake in her chest. Neither should you. It's past midnight, Emma. She gestured to the samples surrounding them. Vials of seawater and tissue specimens that told a story of environmental destruction. Elena's work doesn't sleep, neither do I. Sebastian stepped closer, and she caught the scent of salt air and exhaustion on his clothes. You can't keep punishing yourself for her death. For what I did, can't I? Emma's laugh was sharp as broken glass. Tell me, Sebastian, how many other scientists have died for the sake of your profit margins? How many other ecosystems have you destroyed? His face went white. Emma, you don't understand the whole story, then? Tell me. The words exploded. From her chest, months of rage and heartbreak pouring out. Tell me how you justify Elena's death. Tell me how you sleep at night, knowing that every day you delay action. More marine life dies. Sebastian's composure finally cracked, his voice breaking like a dam under pressure. You think I don't know what I've done? You think I don't see Elena's face every night when I close my eyes? He pulled out a tablet, his hands shaking as he scrolled through files. Elena wasn't just researching for my company, Emma. She was working with the FBI to expose the entire operation. I didn't kill her to protect my profits. Between them, displaying documents that made Emma's scientific mind real. FBI communications, wire transfer records, evidence of corporate espionage that went far beyond environmental destruction. His voice hollow. The environmental damage was just a byproduct, and she threatened to expose everything. People far more dangerous than me decided she was a liability. Emma stared at the documents, her world reshaping itself around this new reality. You're saying you didn't order her death? I'm saying I didn't stop it when I could have. One chose my own survival over hers, and I've been living with that choice ever since. The admission hung between them like a blade. Emma felt something shift inside her chest, not forgiveness, but a terrible understanding. She knew what it felt, like to make impossible choices, to prioritize survival over morality. Why are you telling me this now? Sebastian's green eyes met hers, and she saw a depth of pain that matched her own. Because they know you're getting close to the truth. The same people who killed Elena are coming for you now. Terror shot through Emma's veins like ice water. What? Your research into the kelp restoration project has led you to the same data Elena found. The offshore drilling permits, the chemical composition of the contamination, the timeline of ecosystem collapse. You've connected dots they thought were buried with her. Emma's legs gave out, and she sank into a chair. Elena's journal clutched against her chest like armor. How long do I have? Hours? Maybe less. They're already in Monterey. The lab felt suddenly fragile around them, the glass walls offering no protection against the forces gathering outside. Emma looked at the research that had consumed her life, the data that could save countless marine ecosystems, but might cost her everything. There's a way out, Sebastian said quietly. I can make you disappear. New identity, new life, somewhere they'll never find you. Emma's scientific mind processed the offer, cataloging the variables and outcomes with cold precision. It meant choosing survival over justice, just as Sebastian had done. "In the research?" she asked. Sebastian's silence was answer enough. Emma stood slowly, Elena's journal still pressed against her heart. Outside the lab windows, the Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly under starlight, indifferent to the human dramas playing out on its shores. She thought of Elena, alone and afraid in her final moments, carrying the weight of truth that no one else was willing to bear. "I'm not running," Emma said finally. Sebastian's face went ashen. "Emma, please, don't make the same mistake Elena did." She turned to face him fully, and he saw something in her eyes that made him step backward. It was the same fierce determination that had driven Elena Rodriguez to her death, the same uncompromising dedication to truth that had made her fall in love with Emma in the first place. "It's not a mistake if it's the right thing to do," Emma said. "Elena died because someone had to carry this burden. I can't lose you too." Emma stepped away from his outstretched hand, her decision crystallizing with the weight of inevitability. "You lost me the moment you chose your own survival over Elena's life. Now, I'm choosing differently." The lab door hissed shut behind her as she walked away, leaving Sebastian alone with the ghosts of his choices and the terrible certainty that history was about to repeat itself. The warehouse on the outskirts of Monterey smelled of rust and desperation, its broken windows letting in shafts of dawn light that cut through the darkness like accusations. Emma sat bound to a metal chair, her face swollen from the beating they'd given her when she'd refused to hand over Elena's research. Blood trickled from her split lip, but her eyes remained defiant as she stared at the man pacing in front of her. Marcus Volkov was everything Sebastian had warned her about, and worse. His pale eyes held the cold calculation of a predator, and his expensive suit couldn't disguise the violence that rolled off him like heat from asphalt. Two other men flanked him, their faces blank with professional indifference. Dr. Charlotte Volkov said, his accent thick with Russian undertones. "You continue to disappoint me. All we want is Elena Rodriguez's research data. Surely that's not worth dying for." Emma spat blood onto the concrete floor. "Elena died protecting that data. I won't dishonor her memory by handing it over to murderers." Volkov's laugh was like breaking glass. "Murderers. We prefer to think of ourselves as problem solvers. Elena was a problem. Now you are a problem. See the pattern?" The warehouse door exploded inward with a sound like thunder, and Sebastian burst through with 3 armed men behind him. His suit was torn, his face a mask of fury and determination that made him look more dangerous than Emma had ever seen him. "Let her go, Volkov," Sebastian commanded, his voice carrying the authority of a man who'd built empires and destroyed enemies. Volkov smiled, pressing the barrel of his gun against Emma's temple. "Ah, Sebastian. Right on time. I was beginning to think you'd abandoned your little marine biologist like you abandoned poor Elena. This is between us. Emma has nothing to do with our arrangement, doesn't she?" Volkov's grip tightened on the weapon. "Dr. Charlotte has been very busy completing Elena's work. She knows about the offshore drilling permits, the money laundering operation, even the location of the encrypted servers. She knows everything, Sebastian, which means she knows about your role in all of it." Emma's eyes widened as the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. "Your partners?" "You've been working with them all along." Sebastian's face crumbled. Years of carefully constructed lies collapsing around him. "Emma, I can explain." "Explain what?" Her voice was raw with betrayal. "Explain how you've been playing both sides. How you used me to finish Elena's work so you could hand it over to these animals." Volkov chuckled, clearly enjoying the display. Such a quick mind. "Yes, Sebastian has been feeding us information about your progress. The kelp restoration project was the perfect cover, wasn't it? Get close to the naive little scientist, earn her trust, and let her do all the dangerous work of uncovering Elena's hidden data." The warehouse fell silent, except for Emma's ragged breathing and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. She stared at Sebastian, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the tortured billionaire seeking redemption, but a calculating predator who'd used her love against her. The rose, she whispered. That first night at the restaurant. It was all planned. Sebastian's voice was barely audible. Emma, please believe me. What we had was real. Was it? She laughed bitterly. Or was it just another lie in your collection? Volkov pressed the gun harder against her skull. Enough reunion sentiment. Where's Elena's data, Dr. Charlotte? The encrypted files she hid before her unfortunate accident? Emma closed her eyes, feeling Elena's journal pressed against her ribs where she'd hidden it before they'd captured her. The truth was literally next to her heart, and with it the power to expose the entire operation. She thought of the marine ecosystems dying while these men counted their profits. Of the scientists who would follow in Elena's footsteps if someone didn't stop this madness. I'll tell you, she said quietly. Sebastian stepped forward, his face stricken. Emma, don't. They'll kill you anyway. She met his eyes one final time, seeing the man she'd foolishly loved buried beneath layers of corruption and cowardice. I know. Volkov leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. Where? Emma smiled, blood staining her teeth. Go to hell. The world exploded into chaos as she threw herself sideways, the chair crashing to the ground as Volkov's gun went off. Gunfire erupted throughout the warehouse as Sebastian's men engaged with Volkov's thugs, muzzle flashes strobing like deadly lightning. Through the mayhem, Emma crawled toward a pile of shipping containers, Elena's journal clutched in her bleeding hands. She could feel life seeping out of her, Volkov's bullet having found its mark in her abdomen, but she had one last task to complete. Her phone, somehow still intact in her jacket pocket, connected to the emergency broadcast system she'd set up as a failsafe. With trembling fingers, she uploaded Elena's research data. Every damning document and piece of evidence streaming out into the digital world where it could never be silenced again. Sebastian appeared beside her, his face torn with anguish as he pressed his hands against her wound. Emma, stay with me. I'm getting you out of here. She looked up at him, her vision blurring, but her voice steady. It's done. Elena's research is public now. The whole world will know what you've done. I don't care about the research, he said desperately. I care about you. Emma's hand found his cheek, her touch gentle despite everything. No, you don't. You care about the idea of me, the woman you thought you could control and manipulate. But you never knew the real me, Sebastian. The woman who would die before letting murderers win. Tears streaked down his face, washing away the last of his carefully constructed masks. I'm sorry. God, Emma, I'm so sorry. I know, she whispered, her voice growing fainter with each word. But sorry doesn't bring Elena back. And it doesn't undo the choice you made to save yourself instead of doing what was right. The sound of sirens filled the air as FBI agents swarmed the warehouse, alerted by the data dump that was already making headlines around the world. Emma smiled as darkness crept in around the edges of her vision. Elena's legacy is safe now, she breathed. And so is the ocean she died protecting. Sebastian held her as she faded, his whispered apologies lost in the chaos of justice finally arriving to claim them all. 5 years later, Sebastian Hayes stood at the edge of a restored kelp forest off the California coast, the late afternoon sun casting golden ripples across water that teemed with life. Schools of fish moved through the towering underwater trees like living clouds, their presence a testament to the healing power of truth and time. He wore a simple wetsuit instead of an expensive suit, his hands calloused from years of manual labor rather than soft from boardroom comfort. The FBI had seized Hayes Technologies within hours of Emma's data dump, but Sebastian had escaped federal prison by cooperating fully with the investigation. Volkov and his associates had received life sentences, their money-laundering empire dismantled piece by piece. The nitrogen levels are finally stable, Dr. Maria Santos said, surfacing beside him with a waterproof tablet full of data. She was the lead marine biologist on the Elena Rodriguez Memorial Research Foundation, the organization that had risen from the ashes of Emma's sacrifice. Your kelp cultivation techniques are working better than anyone expected, Sebastian nodded, pulling off his diving mask to reveal a face that had aged far more than 5 years should allow. Gray streaked his dark hair, and lines of grief had etched themselves permanently around his green eyes. Elena would have figured it out faster, and Emma would have made it look effortless. Maria's expression softened with understanding. She'd heard Sebastian speak their names like prayers 1,000 times over the years. Two ghosts that haunted every victory and drove every moment of his penance. You've restored 30 square miles of ecosystem, Sebastian. You've created jobs for 100 coastal communities. You've turned Elena's research into reality and Emma's sacrifice into hope. They would be proud. Sebastian stared down through the clear water at the kelp forest swaying in the current. Each frond a living memorial to the women who died for this vision. Proud isn't the word I'd use. Emma told me once that sorry doesn't bring back the dead. She was right about that too. He swam toward shore with powerful strokes, his body strong from years of physical work that had replaced the soft corruption of his former life. On the beach, a small crowd had gathered for the dedication ceremony. Local fishermen whose livelihoods had been restored, scientists whose research had been funded by the foundation, children from nearby schools who'd never known an ocean without the protection Emma had died to secure. The memorial plaque gleamed in the fading sunlight, its simple inscription cutting straight to the heart of what had been lost and found. In memory of Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Dr. Emma Charlotte, who gave their lives so that others might live. The ocean remembers. Sebastian knelt beside the plaque, his fingers tracing Emma's name with the reverence of ritual. Every day for 5 years, he'd performed this same act of remembrance, carrying the weight of her words like stones in his chest. I know you can't hear me, he whispered to the bronze letters. And I know forgiveness isn't something I deserve. But I need you to know that I've tried to be the man you saw in me, even when I couldn't see it myself. A gentle wave washed over his knees, the cool water mixing salt with the tears he'd never learned to stop shedding. Behind him, the dedication ceremony continued, voices rising in celebration of restored life and renewed hope. But Sebastian remained kneeling in the surf, alone with his ghosts and the endless work of atonement. As the sun sank toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Sebastian felt something shift in the water around him. Not forgiveness that would come only with death, but perhaps the faintest echo of understanding. Emma had chosen truth over safety, love over survival, justice over self-preservation. In her final moments, she'd become everything she'd always been. A guardian of the natural world who would accept no compromise in defense of what she loved. Sebastian stood slowly, water streaming from his wetsuit as he faced the restored kelp forest one last time. Tomorrow would bring new research, new restoration projects, new opportunities to honor the memories of the women whose courage had saved an ecosystem. He would never stop working, never stop trying to earn the redemption that remained forever just beyond his reach. But tonight, as the first stars appeared over the Pacific, Sebastian Hayes allowed himself to believe that somewhere in the vast ocean, Emma had died protecting. Two brilliant scientists were watching over the legacy they'd paid everything to secure. The waves whispered against the shore with the sound of eternal tides, carrying secrets and promises from the deep places where truth lives forever, patient and uncompromising as the sea itself. The end.